And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. Welcome to the Donald J. Trump and Benchley night. It's very nice to be here. It's nice that you're all here. If anyone's here, I see two people are watching. Hi, two people. Hi, three people. Okay. Our numbers are growing. Our strength is the strength of 10 because our heart is pure. Anyway, welcome to Benchley night. Put away the cares of the world. Put away the absurdity of whatever is going on at this moment. Put it away, put it away, put it away. We're just going to sit back and we are going to enjoy another chapter of Matthew Hongoltz-Hetling's excellent A Libertarian Walks into a Bear. This is a purely action-filled chapter. Next week will be much more about kind of the government of Grafton, New Hampshire, as compared to other nearby towns. But this tonight is a pure action-packed episode of A Libertarian Walks into a Bear. Hi, Terry Hudson. How are you? I think you're back from your travels, but I don't feel 100% sure of that. It's been snowy and gross here. Martha Rowley can attest to that. But as I say, wood stove is going. Charbonneau the cat is happily behind the wood stove, I believe. And all is well here. Chapter 12, A Battle with Bears. A frantic bleating woke Dianne Burrington from a deep sleep. The sheep farmer reacted instinctively, throwing back her covers and reaching for iron. Burrington did not know if the marauder was man, beast, or supernatural being, but she did not really care. Even sleepy and barefoot, she was not a shit taker, she was a shit kicker. She grabbed the rifle leaning up against the wall in a corner of the kitchen just in case, and she grabbed the pistol out of the kitchen drawer too, just in case. Then she burst out of her front door, a frumpy bulwark of civilization in a wildering world. Oh, Terry says she is still traveling somewhere. She gestures vaguely. Despite the best efforts of civic-minded people like Burrington, Grafton had gradually slipped down an entropic slope. In the early days, the hands on the deck of enlightenment busily swept away Grafton's wolves and bears and trees in favor of houses and farms and sheep. But when its capitalistic motor was stilled, that clock began rusting away, a slow fade of civilization, punctuated by fire and flood. Between 1935 and 2002, the county lost 92% of its farmland, and fields reverted to impenetrable thickets of bramble, then tangles of young trees. Roads once supported by tax dollars became blackberry patches, favored by foraging bears. The most heavily farmed region in the state became the most heavily forested. And even as camps have arisen in the woods in the first decades of this century, census data show that a third of Grafton's permanent housing units stand vacant. The wilderness's encroachment is presaged by advanced troops of mice building nests in homes and under the hoods of cars. Left unchallenged, the vermin unpaved the way for that's so good. The vermin unpaved the way for further intrusions by larger animals, water, wind, and vegetation. The state now considers Grafton a single near continuous block of bear habitat. So they played an unwitting role in making the Freetown possible when they sold a home to the Babiarses. Burrington's parents spent their whole lives in civic service. For 40 years, June Bassett drove Grafton's children to school, first in an ancient bus owned by the police chief, and balanced municipal accounts as town treasurer. Meanwhile, John plowed and maintained as many roads as he could under the title of town and road agent, a post that would eventually be held by his son. In 1961, the Bassetts, then in their 20s, spent $7,000 to buy a 450-acre plot of reforested land in Slab City that included a derelict schoolhouse. At the time, the property was covered with scrub trees and overgrowth. Only granite steps and cellar holes marked the sites of buildings that had either burned in the fires caused by the charcoal kiln explosion or crumbled into ruin. The Bassetts reclaimed the land for cows and sheep and modernized the schoolhouse with a septic system and other improvements to make it habitable. When Dianne, who grew up in the schoolhouse, got married, she and her husband dug up some coal bricks from the old kiln operation and used them to build a hearth fireplace. In 1993, after selling the schoolhouse and some of its newly cultivated land to the Babiarses, Dianne and her mother transferred their energy to their new home. It was built on a high mountainous pasture overlooking Grafton Center, a tiny sheep-studded island of grass holding the line against an inexorable sylvan tide. As Burrington hurried down her porch steps, front door banging in her wake, she felt the wide range of uncertainty about what exactly might have emerged from the dark woods to threaten her sheep. That was the norm in Grafton, where a strange alchemical brew of perception and reality has transformed the surrounding wood into a unique and alien landscape populated by creatures both toothsome and mythic. In most places, the further back in history one goes, the murkier and more mysterious a forest denizens become. And indeed, Grafton's earlier European settlers suffocated beneath a heavy mythos of demons, devils, witches, and vampires. But the new wood has acquired its own modern myths, which have set their hooks deep into the psyche of Grafton's collective mindset. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. One reason is that some weird creatures really do live in the woods there. In 1890, a wealthy and eccentric land speculator named Austin Corbin built a visionary game preserve just 20 miles from Grafton. Corbin Park was surrounded by 30 miles of heavily stockaded fence designed to prevent the escape of imported species, which included bighorn sheep, Russian wild boar, elk, and what became the largest herd of bison in the world. But with Jurassic Park-like flair, the Great New England Hurricane of 1938 breached Corbin's Park's stockade fence. Hundreds of animals escaped into the timberland, and some established breeding populations. Even today, there are documented reports of woolly tusked boars that can weigh up to 700 pounds. For reference, that's twice the size of most full-grown black bears, but only half the size of the region's behemoth moose, which occasionally do trample people to death. The hurricane's 186 mile per hour wind gusts also resculpted the landscape by flattening homes and uprooting trees. In the storm's wake, acres of wind snap and blowdown formed dense, near impenetrable tangles of dead wood. 6 years later, in 1944, New Hampshire's first coyote was documented in Grafton County. They are much bigger and hardier than coyotes in other parts of the country. Genetic tests have revealed that they are actually 30% wolf, and they sometimes form packs to skulk after dog walkers along Grafton's forest paths. Amidst all these potential threats, Burrington defends her pasture land with her guns, her booming voice, and a high-voltage electric fence running all around the perimeter. The bears sometimes pace the fence, looking for a weakness, while the coy wolves prefer to lie in wait, hoping an unwary sheep will stray close enough for the burly canids to set their teeth and rip a steaming piece of mutton right through to the other side. Burrington has shot and killed these hybrids in the past, but there is no hunting them to extinction because they respond to low population densities by having more frequent and larger litters to fill the void. It seemed that no amount of hunting would stop the town's emerging ferality, and the Freetown era had only accelerated the pace of change. In addition to the formidable creatures for which there is ample scientific evidence, undocumented megafauna, several people in Grafton believe, roam the woods. A man told me that more than once he'd seen dragonflies as large as hawks. In the area known by cryptozoologists as a Bigfoot environ, and one only 50 miles from the most famous UFO abduction account in American history, reported by Betty and Barney Hill in 1961, another man said he'd seen footprints of a bird with feet much larger than a human hand. Many in Grafton swear to the presence of mountain lions, a species whose existence is not formally recognized by the state. So there was really no telling what Burrington would encounter when she ran out onto the wet ground, half-ass dressed, the hem of her nightgown flapping between a coat she had grabbed and her bare feet. The porch of the house leads directly on to the tufted pasture, which is swept with a high, howling wind that rarely stills. Burrington sprinted up this rise and toward the far side of the barn, where an odd honking bray cut through the bleating. What the hell is he doing? She thought to herself. She recognized the honking as coming from her llama, Hurricane. When he was stressed about potential danger, the llama tended to respond with a soulful hum. He resorted to this braying sound, a penetrating cry full of aggression and fury, only during a crisis. As Burrington rounded the corner, the faint light of the dawning sun revealed what looked like a slaughter in process. A bear, perhaps emboldened by successful raids on Grafton's nearby human camps, had slipped between Burrington's electric fence wires like a pro wrestler entering a ring. Lured by the smell of mutton on the hoof, it paid the electric sting no more mind than it would give a bee protecting a honeypot. And now it was trying to latch on to an individual amongst the general commotion of darting sheep. Burrington charged into the yard. Most of the sheep had stampeded into the shelter of the barn, but some combination of sheep and bear had rammed the shelter, had rammed into the fence with such force that it had been ripped off the post, severing it from the power source. A ewe, panicked and struggling, was completely tangled in the netting. Christ, Burrington thought. Now she's going to get strangled. She turned her back to the bear, trying to juggle the pair of firearms while pulling scissors from her coat pocket. 2 expert snips freed the ewe, which looked miraculously unharmed. Burrington rose, faced the bear, a rifle in one hand, a pistol in the other, her eyes filled with the hard glint of a farmer who has not had her coffee yet. But the bear, its plans for a quick and quiet lamb napping, long since dashed, was already fleeing toward the cover of the dark forest. As it turns out, Hurricane the Llama was not finished yet. Raised amongst sheep, Hurricane was a sheep lover. His best friends were sheep. The llama thought that he himself was a 5'9", 400. The llama thought that he himself was a 5'9", 400-pound monster of a sheep. And because he was the biggest, toughest animal on the ranch, he played deputy to Burrington's sheriff. For years, he had patrolled the fence line, scanned the woods for danger, waited with the little ones out in the rain, moonlighted evening stragglers walking tight to make sure they got into the barn at night. When the bear fled, Hurricane flashed past Burrington and out into the pasture. "Hurricane!" Burrington bellowed. "No!" But Hurricane, gone full-blown vigilante, was now a streak of light, chasing a streak of darkness down the slope, long neck stretched out before him like a galloping camel. "Oh, stupid llama," thought Burrington, and she started running herself, a pathetically distant third in the race. Looking ahead at the path the bear was cutting, she suddenly realized that there was another crisis looming. What's he going to do when he gets to the fence? The fine fence she had built to keep bears out was about to keep one in. Hurricane was now so close to the bear, actually nipping at its rounded ass, that the bear, once it reached the barrier, would have little option but to turn and defend itself by killing the llama. With 2 firearms in her hands, Burrington wished fervently for a third. "I should probably have brought something bigger with me, a cannon or something," she thought. "Now, do I go back to the house and get the 30-06, or do I stay here?" She couldn't get a clean shot off anyhow, so she just kept running, cocking her pistol in case the bear finished with Hurricane and then came for her. The bear, apparently having forgotten about the fence, barreled into the 6 high-tension wires at full sprint and caromed off at an angle, spinning sideways, the llama right behind. Now out of options, the desperate bear turned and launched itself at Hurricane with deadly intent. The fight was an absolute bloodbath, so brief that Burrington could only watch helplessly. "That's when," she would later say, "I get to see everything I had always read about llamas." Hurricane exploded at the bear, spinning Category 5 blur of lashing hooves and biting teeth. The llama's blow mostly landed on the bear's throat, chest, and head. Meanwhile, the bear snarled and snapped ineffectually, seemingly unable to land a claw on Hurricane. Bruised and bleeding, the bear mustered one last bit of strength, if not dignity. It pushed through a gap in the fence and into the willows, headed toward a huge bog with thick brush where it was unlikely to be pursued. Hurricane, nearly unscathed, paced the fence line, snorting and braying and stomping his feet. Burrington went back inside to find her boots. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is tonight's reading. We'll be back next week with another installment. This one is all about kind of tax policy and Ayn Rand and all sorts of stuff. Thank you for joining us. It is a wonderful thing to get together every Sunday. You take good care, ladies and gentlemen. You take good care. Stay safe. Look out for each other. Bye-bye.